Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another Chris Chan article. Now, even though we're technically sort of at the end of the Chris and articles, we're not technically at the end of talking about other things related to Chris, for the time being anyway. For example, something I just discovered called the unholy tetard. So, what exactly is that? Well, we're going to find out right now. Pro tip. As tempting as it may be, it is best not to assign labels to certain people that contact Chris, until they have been proven to have fulfilled at least one of the criteria listed. Which is fair enough, because I've completely given up the idea of ever trying to get... In fact, you know what? Forget it. Chris is one of the persons I will just do everything I can to avoid. Because I mentioned this at least once before, that what do you suppose is worse? Trying to get in contact with Chris and he responds to you with open arms, or doing something that catches Chris's attention and he starts blabbering gibberish and completely trying to derail your achievement, as it were. So I'll leave with that thought so we can get started. The unholy tetard is a term used by Christorians to refer to the four types of people that attempt to contact Chris, but end up receiving backlash and or mockery from others as a result. These include white knights, these who try to protect Chris from misguided purposes. They are good and bad for multiple reasons. 2. A-logs, those who feel Chris should suffer greatly from whatever comes to him. Yeah, it's basically trolls trying to kick up more dirt, when I would say almost at this point that the damage has well and truly been done. Enablers, those who feed into Chris's self-destructive habits. Yes, there's a fair bunch of those. Or basically ones who don't understand that Chris takes their responses literally, as meaning that they will at least follow him as a fan or a lead or whatever he decides to call them. And finally, weens, those who try and fail to annoy Chris. Yeah, it's not... But then again, I guess you could say that he will call anybody who doesn't believe in the merge as a troll anyway, so I'd say that one's a little bit, on the weaker side, but let's get started. To date, only one person has become every aspect of the Holy Tetard, and that is Jacob Sockness. Remember when people were still talking about him? And just like, Katie Hopkins, he managed to get himself permanently banned from Twitter. Good riddance, as far as I'm concerned. Failures in a half shell, Clockrise from center, Kenneth Engelhardt, Anthony Lagotto, Michael Hurties, and Ben Saint. Okay, so the four horsemen of the Fail-ocalypse. Engelhardt, I think that's meant to be Lagotto. I think that's meant to be Ben Saint, Lagotto, and Sockness. White Knights. White Knights are people who feel sorry for Chris and feel that they need to help him overcome his demons. Out of all of the groups in the Unholy Tetard, White Knights are by far the most benevolent, but many are naive to the fact that getting Chris to halt his self-destructive lifestyle is going to take a lot more than a message on social media or a Patreon donation. This is true. I mean, I overcame large parts of, my problems in life, and I haven't necessarily overcome all of them. That's going to take a little bit more work. But the fact is that it should be up to me who's doing this, because I'm an adult and I'm in the adult world, and this is just how things are done. And if you can't figure out how, you best find out seeking more professional advice. There is nothing wrong with feeling sorry for Chris, to what capacity or what specifically you feel sorry for him for. But without a combination of really tough love and proper resources, White Knights can unknowingly be as dangerous to Chris as the other three, sometimes worse, especially if they play along with Chris's belief that Quickville and his characters are real, or donate large amounts of money that Chris will blow away on conventions, toys, and video games. The level of devotion by White Knights vary greatly. The most moderate either back down or ask for a second opinion before making a fool of themselves. But the most fanatical may defend Chris even when it is clear as day that Chris was in the wrong all along. Criteria. 1. A person that fervently defends Chris even after it is obvious that Chris was in the wrong. Well, you won't see me filling that one because there are so many things that I think Chris is guilty of his own volition. 2. A person who constantly praises Chris, you won't get me doing that, even when such praise doesn't fit his overall character or skills. Emphasis on skills, I think, or overall character. A person that believes Chris's poor decisions can be overlooked. Not really, because of his disability. Spoiler, it's not always the case. Need they say more? A-logs. A-logs or A-loggers are people who express disappropriate levels of hatred for Chris, often wishing misery or physical harm on him. The term comes from Anthony A. Logotto, who would constantly boast about his superiority over Chris and other people, and attempt to frame Chris as evil and not naive in reality. I don't know, maybe I've been a little bit guilty in this respect, but then again, some things Chris says really do get on my bad side. But in the long run, it makes little to no difference, really, because it's not like he would take any heed of this anyway. A-logs often sit in the opposite of extreme of White Knights. While White Knights try and fail to defend and help Chris, A-logs try and fail to compare Chris to actual tyrants like Fionastote Barbarossa and Nikolai Ceausescu. One does not have to mention another certain tyrant to understanding how A-logging against Chris makes no sense. Some weens and malicious enablers may adapt one or more tactics from A-logs as part of their attempt to ruin Chris's life. Examples including listings of locations that Chris go to with negative reviews about him, or pure extortion, in an attempt to brute force misery or physical harm on Chris. Well, I could definitely say I don't do that because that's just really going out of your way. And idea, guys, yeah, you can see here just listed under extortion. There's nothing more I could say to that. Criteria. 1. A person that tries to compare Chris to someone who is genuinely evil, such as a mass murderer or a war criminal. 2. A person that tries to interpret Chris's flaws as a threat to society rather than as a result of bad parenting. And some other environmental factors, mostly Chris's fault as well. A person who wishes misery or physical harm on Chris. I think Chris has done enough of that to himself anyway without my influence, or hopefully without any of your influence, so I can count myself out on that one as well. A person who celebrates or gloats when something bad happens to Chris. Well, as of late, not really too much has happened, but then again, I think the one behind this is that if there's genuine sort of hubris about this, where Chris does something that he thinks makes himself look good for it only to come back and bite him on the ass through his own faults, or when he's trying to make himself look brave but makes himself look foolish. A person that tries to brute force misery or physical harm on Chris. Okay, I could definitely say I'm not in favor of this one. That's just... yeah. Enablers. Enablers are people who consistently feed into Chris's bad habits. You'll never catch me doing this. Unlike all other groups in the tetard, enablers come in all kinds of varieties. Some play along with Chris's beliefs about himself and the rest of the world. Others will donate money to him despite him imminently wasting any kind of money he already owns. All enablers do these things and many more, with various intents and purposes. Enablers usually agree with and form a religion of Chris's belief that Quickville and his electric hedgehog Pokemon are real in the so-called dimension of C197, where all other fictional characters and OCs live, plus a multitude of other dimensions, and that he is the CPU goddess of that dimension, and that dimensional merge, the apocalyptic event where Dimension 1218, the dimension that we live in, according to Chris, merges with C197, as he calls it, into Dimension 1C211987. to bring fictional characters and OCs into the real world. Will happen in the very near future. How near, or if there is any future left for Chris, remains to be seen. They also usually donate large amounts of money that Chris will blow away to fuel his Peter Pan lifestyle. However, some enablers and weens, such as the Idea Guys, exploited Chris's weak grasp on reality for nefarious purposes. Enablers are the most harmful to Chris, because it only fuels his already hyperinflated ego, in which he answers to no one but himself, and the people will always provide for him in all cases. In the case of the Idea Guys, their exploitation of Chris's naivete not only corrupted the Sonichu lore, but their extortion nearly caused financial ruin in May of 2018. In the 20 years since the creation of Sonichu, Chris's grasp on reality has deteriorated to a point that some white knights face having to play along with Chris's beliefs to get in touch with him. And even after that, there is no guarantee that Chris will follow their advice. The works of the enablers are so well recognized by Chris that he refers to them occasionally as devotees of Chris Chan Sonichu, or more simply, devotees. Never a good idea. Criteria. 1. A person that encourages Chris to continue his Peter Pan lifestyle in some way. I would almost want to rephrase this and almost say that one that encourages Chris to believe he is suffering from Peter Pan syndrome and thus is enabled to get away with it. 2. A person who pretends to believe Chris's interpretation of reality as fact. That's just a very easy one to say no, because there are too many glaring holes in this. A person who genuinely believes Chris's interpretation of reality is as fact. A person that exploits Chris's weak grasp on reality for malicious purposes. And finally, a person who donates money to Chris despite numerous warnings not to from other people. I myself have even told a few people to at least make sure you know exactly what you're getting into if you're going to be conversing or trying to converse with Chris to any such degree. Again, but I have also made clear that it's not for me to say whether they can or cannot, but they might find that in the long run it might not be the best idea in the world. Weens. Weens are people that try and fail to ruin Chris's life. Examples of weaning include trying to get him banned from places or websites that he visits, persistently spamming Chris's social media feeds with pickles and similar stuff to annoy him, or to get him kicked out of his house by getting the local authority to condemn his house for demolition. However, there is a lot of confusion as to what counts as weaning. Some observers tend to erroneously use the term against any trolling attempts since the death of Bob Chandler in 2011. Even if it succeeds, some erroneously use the term against anyone who contacted Chris, even if they do not even fit the criteria of the unholy tetard. Regardless of how the term is used, trying to annoy Chris is utterly pointless, as Chris is no longer negatively phrased by most trolling attempts. Attempts to ruin his life are also a very, very bad idea, especially with the devastating impact of the Idea Guys and the escalating financial crisis. The same goes for trying to harass places for having Chris as a customer or a patron. Some have now started to preemptively ban him, since they have better things to do than deal with wannabe trolls flooding their social media channels. Though I will say this, what Chris could do is just, not post about anything on social media at all, and just, if he does suspect anything, then he may want to just tell people in confidence. Criteria. A person that tries and fails to annoy Chris or do him harm in some manner, and makes a fool out of themselves as a result of it. 2. A person that brags about trying to annoy Chris or ruin his life. 3. A person who constantly blurts outdated Chris memes such as July and Ian Brandon Anderson in order to appear relevant. Relevant by using jokes that died in 2009. Related groups. Along with the established 4 groups above, tetard members may also be classified as at least one of the following. Orbiters. Orbiters are people who obviously follow Chris's life to unhealthy levels. All four groups tend to fall under this category depending on who one is referring to. Counter trolls. Not to be confused with white knights, counter trolls are people who defend Chris from trolls and other tetard members. Nonetheless, white knights and enablers are often associated with such people. In the case of white knights, they would defend Chris from trolls and other tetard members, usually A-loggers and weens, out of pity. In the case of enablers, they would only deflect other trolls and tetard members to keep Chris for themselves. Anti-trolls. Anti-trolls are trolls and are tetard members who try to keep Chris for themselves by attacking other trolls and tetard members. Carpetbaggers. Carpetbaggers are people who exploit Chris's infamy for views and internet fame. Whether it be through interviewing him for this purpose, there are many cases and examples, Noah is a pretty big one, or through having him star in a project purely for fan service. Carpetbaggers can be thought of as this kind of pseudo-ween, as although they try to win fame through Chris, they actually manage to be somewhat successful in their endeavours, probably because there's some sort of like cash settlement that Chris will simply not ignore. See also Jacob Sockless, a man who has somehow managed to encompass every single one of these things while trying to contact Chris. I think, like, if you just check out the sagas I'll be uploading anyway, it should be explained just about everything. I'm going to go on this very quickly just to see if there's anything else added to this. I don't want to go down too far because I'm pretty sure there's some NSFW stuff to failed romance. That should just tell about everything. Jacob is a danger to Chris. Yeah, went over that as well. And yeah, okay. I think it's pretty much virtually remained untouched, apart from the fact that Sockless has pretty much just died away from relevancy. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for the Unholy Tetard page of the Quickie. Just, you know, guys, that I'd say, you know what, follow your heroes or don't, but don't follow them as hard as some people do, as, I don't know, a means to, be a part of history or goodness knows what. It's just, I purely look at this from an almost journalistic point of view, because you trying to understand why Chris is the way he is, aside from his autism. What makes somebody like Chris want to go out and parade a love sign in public? I just fancy knowing, because what is the logic behind the way he does things, among others. And then there are also people who go much further than I do, but I want to at least go into more scientific sort of details in the future. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this reading of the Unholy Tetard and all the categories that people could fall under if they try to. I don't know why anybody would want to get in touch with Chris, but there you go. Please make sure to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys thought of the Unholy Tetard article, courtesy of the Quickie. Please make sure to leave your thoughts, like and subscribe to get daily notifications when my videos come out. And I hope to love you guys again in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye for now.